Hi Flashes, this is Mrs. Reed. So today we are going to start talking about two-step equations, okay? So last week you guys learned about one step, so I do just want to review one-step equations. Remember, when we are trying to get the variable by itself, we need to move the number that is next to the variable on the same side over to the other side. And to do that, we're doing inverse operations. So if we need to move the 9, right now the 9 is adding, so the inverse operation of adding is to subtract it to both sides. So that then your 9's cancel, you're left with m equals, and then 3 minus 9 gives us -6. And then it's always good to check your work just to make sure you did it correctly. So if I were to plug -6 back in for m and rewrite my problem, -6 plus 9 does equal 3, so I know I did it correctly. Okay. All right, here's another example. So m minus 3 equals -5. Once again, we're trying to get the variable by itself, so we need to move all the numbers that are on the same side as the variable over to the other side. And to do that, we will be doing that with inverse operations. So if I need to move this 3, right now the 3 is subtracting. So the opposite of subtracting 3 is to add it to both sides. So your -3 plus 3 cancel because that equals 0. You're left with m equals, and then -5 plus a +3 is a -2. Once again, check your work. So plug -2 back in for m. So -2 minus 3 does give me -5. All right, so addition and subtraction were inverse operations of one another. So now we're going to move on to multiplication and division, since those are inverse operations of one another. So same thing, we still need to get the variable by itself, so we need to move all the numbers that are on the same side of the variable over to the other side. So in this case, I need to move the -3, and right now the -3 and the a are multiplying because two numbers shoved up next to each other are means that they're multiplying. So the opposite of multiplying would be to divide. So I'm going to divide by that -3 on both sides. My -3's will cancel because that equals 1. So I'm left with a equals, and then -16 divided by, -18 divided by -3 equals a +6. Once again, make sure you go back and check your work. So plug your answer back into the variable and then check it. So does -3 times a +6 equal -18? Yes, it does. All right, and the last one, so same thing, I want to get the variable by itself, so I need to move this -5 over to the other side of the equal sign. And right now, the x and the -5 are dividing, because remember, fraction bar means dividing. So the opposite of dividing is to multiply. So I need to multiply by that -5 on both sides, so that my -5's cancel. I'm left with x equals, and then 2 times -5 is a +10. And then if I were to check my work, plug 10 back in for x. And does 10 divided by -5 equal -2? It sure does. All right, so this is what we learned last week. So these were just one-step equations. We took one step to get our variable by itself to get our answer, okay? Today, we are moving on to two-step. So two-step equations is what it says. We are going to be taking 2 steps to solve an equation that has more than one operation. And you want to think of two-step equations as using PEMDAS backwards. So if we're using PEMDAS backwards, notice how we need to add and subtract first. And then we can move on to multiplying and dividing. And we aren't going to worry about the parentheses and exponents right now, okay? So, first step is to cancel by using addition or subtraction, property of equality. Use the inverse of addition or subtraction. So, first step to get the variable by itself is to add or subtract the number that's on the same side of the variable. And we'll do some examples here in a moment, okay? Second step is to cancel further by using multiplication or division to get the variable by itself. So, once again, we need to add or subtract first, and then we can multiply or divide to get the variable by itself. Okay? So let's use that to do some examples. So here's my first example. So we have 2x minus 15 equals 5. So again, our first step is to cancel out addition or subtraction, which means we are looking on the side of the variable, on the side of the equal sign. So we're looking over here on the left side. I need to move the number that's either adding or subtracting. And it's always going to be the constant. It's not going to be the coefficient that's attached to the variable. I need the number that's adding or subtracting, which in this case is the 15. Okay? So just like one-step equations, if I need to move this 15 over to the other side, right now it's subtracting 15. So what's the opposite of subtracting 15? If you said add 15, that is correct. Okay, so I want to add my 15 to both sides. So watch what happens. Okay, do you guys see how I put the plus 15 underneath my minus 15 and not below the 2x? Because can I take 2x plus 15? Hopefully you guys are saying no, because these are not like terms. However, these are like terms because they're both constants. Okay? So if I take negative 15 plus a positive 15, that equals 0, so these cancel out. All that I have left is a 2x on the left side of my equal sign. And then over on the right side, 5 plus 15 gives me a positive 20. Do you guys see how now we just have a one-step equation? So that's our process. Okay, so after we take our first step, we should get a result that is a one-step equation. So then we only need to take one more step to get our answer. Okay, so to get x by itself, second step is cancel with multiplication or division. Well, the 2 and the x are multiplying, so if I need to move the 2 over to the other side, the opposite of multiplying is dividing. And remember, make sure you're dividing to both sides of the equal sign, okay? So, your 2's cancel, because that equals 1, and we're left with x equals 20 divided by 2 gives us an answer of 10. Okay, so let's recap. So once again, you have to look at the side that's on the same side as x, and you need to move all the numbers on the same side as x over to the other side, and you always need to move the number that's adding or subtracting first. Then your next step would be to multiply or divide. Okay? Yes, we still do need to check our work. So once again, all that we need to do is plug our answer back into the variable and then rewrite our problem. So if we said x was 10, this is 2 times 10 minus 15 should be 5. And let's check to see if that does work out. So 2 times 10 is 20. And then does 20 minus 15 equal 5? It sure does, so I know I did it correctly. Alright, so you guys know that you can pause this video at any time, okay? But I'm just going to go ahead and move on to the next question. So the next one, we have 11n plus 1 equals 67, okay? So same thing. First thing that we need to do is look on the side that has the variable. So in this case, it's the left side. And we need to move all the numbers over here over to the other side of the equal sign. And I always want to move the number that's adding or subtracting first. And it's always going to be the constant. So it's not attached to the variable, it's the one that's by itself. So in this case, I need to move this plus 1. Okay? So to do that, I have to do the inverse operation of adding 1. So What's the opposite of adding 1? Subtracting 1. So when I subtract 1 from both sides, remember I need to subtract it with this plus 1 and not the 11n. So plus 1 minus 1 is 0. Those cancel. We're left with 11n equals, and then 67 minus 1 gives us 66. All right, so remember, after you take your first step in a two-step equation, you should then get down to a one-step result. Okay, and then from that one-step result, you just have to take one more step to get your answer. So, what would be my last step to get n by itself? Well, if the 11 and the n are multiplying, to move the 11 over to the other side, the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So I'm going to divide by 11 on both sides. My 11's cancel because that equals 1. And then 66 divided by 11 gives me an answer of n equals 6. All right, and then make sure you guys go back and check your work. So plug 6 back in for n. So we have 11 times 6 plus 1 equals 67. So once again, just make sure that that works. So 11 times 6 is 66. And does 66 plus 1 equal 67? Yep, it sure does. Alright, so let me try one more with you guys, and then I'll have you guys try one on your own. So again, always look at the side with the variable. So whenever I say the side, it's the side of the equal sign. So you're either looking at the left side of the equal sign or you're looking at the right side. So in this case, we're looking at the left side, okay? And when I'm looking at the left side, I need to first move the number that's the constant. And the constant is going to be the one that's either adding or subtracting. So the number that we need to move first is this plus 4. Okay, so if I want to move that plus 4, what I need to do is do the opposite of adding 4, which is subtracting 4. So my plus 4 minus 4 will cancel. I'm left with negative 2y equals, and then 8 minus 4 is 4. So I did my first step, and I got my result, which is now just a one step. So my last step is either to multiply or divide. Well, negative 2 and the y are multiplying, so to get y by itself, I need to do the opposite of multiplying, which is divide. So I divide by negative 2 on both sides. My negative 2's cancel, and I'm left with y equals, and then 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. So you guys on your quiz and test could see like this step result, step answer check. And it's just to remind you guys of the steps to take to solve a two-step equation. Okay, so that's why I've been writing it over here off to the side, because you guys should or might be able to see this, okay? So my last step is to check. I wrote down answer twice. So plug your answer back into the variable and rewrite the problem. So if we got y equals negative 2, this is negative 2 times negative 2 plus 4 equals 8. Negative 2 times negative 2 is a positive 4. So does 4 plus 4 equal 8? It sure does. Alright, so I want you guys to try one on your own. Okay, so go ahead and try this one on your own. And then I'm going to talk about 2 more things and then we'll be done. Okay, so pause this video and go ahead and try this one on your own. And then press play when you're ready. Alright, so you guys should be done with this problem. Okay, the more you guys practice these, the better you'll get at them. So just make sure you guys did this before you press play on the video. Okay. So the first thing that you guys should have done was notice that x was on the left side, so I needed to move the -2 first, since that's my constant and it's the number that's adding or subtracting. So to move that -2, I had to do its inverse operation, so the opposite of subtracting 2 was to add 2 on both sides. So your -2 plus 2 cancel, you're left with 5x equals, and then 3 plus 2 is 5. So here's your step, here's your answer. Now we just have a one-step equation, so to get x by itself, our last step is to divide by 5 on both sides, because the 5 and the x are multiplying, and then we are left with x equals 1. Alright, so good job if you got that, and you guys should have known whether you got this answer right or wrong by plugging your answer back in for x and then actually checking it. So 5 times 1 is 5, and does 5 minus 2 equal 3? It sure does, so you guys know that you've done it correctly. Okay? Alright, so we haven't seen one yet with a division one. Okay, so let's do this one together, and then I'll go through one more problem. So the same process applies. Okay, so we need to look on the side where our variable is, which in this case is the left side again, and then we always want to move the number that's adding or subtracting first, and it's going to be our constant. So in this case we need to move the 9, and to move it we have to do its inverse operation. So if it's subtracting 9, the opposite of subtracting 9 is to add 9. So our 9's will cancel. We're left with x divided by 5 equals, and then -2 plus 9 gives us a positive 7. Alright, and then now we just have a one-step equation. So if we want to get x by itself, we need to move this 5 over to the other side. And to do that, we have to do its inverse operation. So right now, x and 5 are dividing. So the inverse operation of dividing is to multiply. So I need to multiply by this 5 on both sides, so that then my 5's will cancel. I'm left with x equals, and then 7 times 5 will give me 35. Alright, and then I do need to check my work, so plug 35 back in for x, and then just make sure that it does work out. So if I were to take 35 divided by 5, I get 7. And then if I were to check, 7 minus 9 does give me -2, so I know I did it correctly. Alright, so I just want to give you guys one more problem over here, because all of our examples, x have been on the left side, but as you guys know, x could also be on the right side. So let's say I were to do this same problem but change it up, or how it looks when we first start it. So let's say that -2 is on the left side of the equal sign, and then let's say this -9 is in the front, and then the x over 5 is the back one. Okay, so you would still do the same exact process. Okay, you need to first look which side the x is on, which in this case is the right side. So I need to start moving these numbers over to the other side, and you always want to do the number that's adding or subtracting. Okay, and it's going to be the constant, so it is always going to be the number that is on the same side as x, but it's not attached to the x. So you don't want to move the 5 first because it's attached to the x and it's dividing. Remember, we want to add or subtract first. So the number that we need to move is this -9. Okay, so if it's a -9, the opposite of a negative is a positive. So I would need to do the opposite, which is just adding the 9. Which, if you notice, that was our first step over here as well. Okay, then you're going to get the same thing. So -2 plus 9 is 7. Your 9's will cancel, and you're left with x over 5. So same thing, to get x by itself, you need to multiply by 5 on both sides because the x and the 5 are dividing. So the opposite of dividing is to multiply. And then notice how we are going to get the same exact thing, except the only thing that was different was we started with x on the right side. Okay? So just know that this could happen, but even if x is on the right side, you still have to follow the same process by cancel addition or subtraction first, and then second step is cancel multiplication or division. Okay? So let your teacher know if you guys have any questions. Make sure you guys are showing your work on your assignments that you get and you're following the step, result, step, answer, check. Okay? So thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys took good notes. And guys, the more you practice these, the better you'll get at them. Okay? I promise. All right. Have a good day.